Welcome, and we are live. Welcome to the Crafty Boys. This is episode 173. That's right. We're closing in on the big 200, which means that our subscriber rate will probably climb to at least 10. Thanks. By the way, I want to have a shout out. Let's all do a shout out here for Love the Mac, who actually commented on some of our videos, even going so far as back to episode 12. So either he tortured himself listening to us for episode after episode, or he was picking and choosing specifically the Vancouver Island Brewery beers, which he actually commented that part of the problem with Vancouver Island Brewery is that they changed to cater to a larger audience, and which might be why we think their beers blow ass. So, at least the Pipers blows ass. So I want to be very specific. They've got some good stuff, but Pipers was the beer that we really liked for a long time. Then we grew up, became connoisseurs of other breweries. Then we went back to the home brew, like, all right, let's totally have some of this. And then we were like, what? Throw that quietly to the side. So, and then we cried quietly into what the beer we refused to drink after a while.
Another fond childhood memory thrown in the dustbin.
I know. So sad. Last week, we cracked open our old cellar dwellers and we drank those. And I don't have any memories of what happened after we recorded. Which is actually true, because I only realized tonight that for some reason last week I put the video on private.
I can't find it?
I don't know why. I was like, okay, so I better check the thumbnail. Oh, I didn't do the thumbnail. Oh, it's okay. The video's probably there. Nope, video's not there either. Why is the video on private? What was I doing last week? So yeah, I hadn't revisited between last week and tonight. So I actually just in the last half an hour pumped out the thing. So
what are we doing tonight?
I don't know what we're doing tonight. Tonight's actually a beer that I think, Alan, you chose.
I did choose. Well, I chose another beer. We couldn't get it. So the last moment here, I chose another one, and I'm hoping you guys were able to get it. It is from
hold aloft.
It is from Steamworks. Their Salted Chocolate Porter.
Yes, I like the light bulb on it, though. But I don't know what this has to do with salted or porters, but the light bulb graphic is really nice. I kind of like that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a dirigible kind of thing. It's like sailing away in the clouds, and
come sail away, come salt away.
On the side of the label, it says our salted chocolate porter offers a full body with rich chocolate flavors from a well-balanced combination of toasted and chocolate malts. While hand-harvested Pacific Ocean fleur de sel, I think that's just salt, from the Vancouver Island Salt Company, gives it an intriguing flourish on the finish.
All right, well, I'm cracking this baby open because I'm kind of curious what it smells like. Steamworks, of course, we've done some stuff from, which I could look up in our spreadsheet, but I won't today because I'm too lazy.
I can think of a couple that we've done.
It does have a salty sort of tinge to the aroma. Let's take a look at what the color is like. The aroma is salty,
very dark.
The color is very dark. The head is very brown. Lacing is nice, I think. Can you tell?
Well, I'm not getting any kind of lacing, but I got quite a nice foamy head going on here. It's not the head isn't sticking to the side of the glass at all. So hey, Dave, I don't imagine it's going to stick around too long. But
Dave, can you identify the international beer units of this particular beer, please?
Oh, hang on. Let me have a look. See,
Shane says knowing it's not on the bottle.
It's a porter, so
they're let me take a look. All right, don't find it. Looks like this. That looks like the IBU rating right there. It doesn't matter. It's a porter. The IBU rating is pretty It's as inconsequential to our beer enjoyment.
Ooh.
So I'm liking the aroma. Here we go down the gullet. That is some salty beer, but oh my god, it's good. Holy cow.
It is salty.
The salt is there, but the beer is doesn't matter. Peanut Gallery. With the Peanut Gallery, I'd like to try the salty chocolate. No, wait. Yeah, salty chocolate porter from Steamworks. Here you go. It's quite good. Actually,
it's nice.
No,
so as I predicted.
Thank you.
There you go.
As I predicted, the head is basically gone already.
Yeah, the head is not sticking around. It didn't last.
That's okay though.
Well, you know, when you get head that doesn't last long on a beer, you know, it's like
it means they either do it really good or not very good at all.
But hey, at least we got some head anyway.
Something's better than nothing. Is that the theory we're going?
Dave, what do you think?
I'm not saying a word, Dave. I'm not saying anything.
All right.
Hey, Dave, can you turn red on camera?
Dave, tell us what you think of the beer.
I like it. Although I've noticed
Thank you for that gripping report, Dave.
I do.
Now back to Shane in the studio.
I'd like to all welcome everyone here to the show. Well, Dave is going to give us a full report based on, well, actually nothing. So never mind. Dave is completely useless and hasn't given us any information about this beer. He's just basically telling us something we already know. Thank you so much, Dave. Moving on to Alan, who's currently in weather.
Yes. The beer. There's a 75% chance of enjoyment with this beer. There's a high pressure amount of salt coming in from the north that is going to rain down onto the chocolate flats and cause the beer foaminess to come into our glass and down our throats.
A report from the chocolatey flats. Oh my god. I'll be one of those videos that'll be a meme.
And then what we need is that cut screen is like, we're experiencing technical difficulties. Please stand by.
Which is that picture from the Simpsons where it's like that guy getting drunk behind the camera. Yeah, getting drunk behind the camera. Always a good thing for people to do.
No, I'm really enjoying this. I think this is a good one. Now, this is just a seasonal, I believe. It's out for a limited time. It came out in early December. I actually wanted to do it back at that time, but it wasn't really available everywhere. So now it is available everywhere. You can get it at BC liquor stores. It's about $5.70 a bottle plus tax. And you can also get it on the island at Cascadia. And I believe at Liquor Plus. Dave, where did you get yours?
Got mine at Cascadia.
Cascadia, how much did you pay for it there? $6-ish?
Yeah, I think that's about right altogether. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And Shane, you got yours at the BC Liquor?
I got mine at the BC Liquor Store where I was able to go walk in and say, give me a beer. And they were like, okay. And then I didn't have to threaten them or anything because I was like, give me a keg of beer. And they were like, sure, okay, whatever.
Oh, that was from like Teen Wolf. Give me a keg of beer. And then he gives them the keg of beer.
And these, which I think were like Slim Jims or something. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, so it's after Christmas, boys. And we've gone through the chocolate. Oh, wait, never mind. We've gone through most of the chocolate currently available to those who...
No. There's going to be more chocolate beers coming. There's still Valentine's Day.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Is there a Oh, which reminds me, I did not send you a photograph of this. I did take one, and I haven't sent it to you yet.
Oh.
But have you guys seen the Red Racer S'more Stout?
Yes.
Okay.
We've done it. We've done it before.
Really?
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember that at all. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to entertain the masses while I try to bring up the spreadsheet for the beer.
Dave, could you please do a song and dance for us?
Wait. Okay. Here.
Actually, you know what's even better? You guys could actually talk about the other beer that I found. The Trois Dogs Chili Chocolate Milk Stout.
Okay, that sounds horrible.
The Salt Spring Island Ales Earl Grey IPA.
That sounds weird.
I've had that.
Now, Oh my God, I got to bring up the spreadsheet, but I don't think we did this one. But Ravens Brewing Hot Chocolate Porter.
No, I don't believe we've done. Are you saying hot chocolate or hop chocolate?
Hot chocolate, as in chocolate with hotness to it.
Oh, okay.
These are 3 beers. Oh, and sorry, and the Steel and Oak Brewing Co. Their limited release, a Beechwood Smoked Honey Doppelbock, which sounds amazing.
Who does that one?
Steel and Oak.
Steel and Oak. Oh, I've
actually been to their tasting room. It's quite a ways out from where I am, but well,
I think that should be our next choice, man.
But I saw these all today on the beer shelves at the liquor store, so I will be putting these into, of course, our shared back channel album of awesome, so you can actually see what they look like. But anyway, so yeah, boys and girls out there on what is today?
Wednesday.
Oh,
January the 9th, 2019.
January the 9th, 2019. Now, what beers are we expecting to experience? Like, what are we looking forward to any beer that's coming out in 2019? I'm asking this because I was talking to my neighbor the other day about all of the movies from the MCU, all of the TV shows from the DC universe that are coming out this year. Yeah. And I got to say, DC is hitting TV flipping hard in 2019. So, and then it got me thinking after that conversation of do we actually have like beer announcements that are like, a year, 2 years in advance? Like, we're making this for 2020. Like, I don't think we get that.
Not really. Not really. Kind of the beers are sometimes written about just before they're released, but we don't know what beers that are being worked on. I'm expecting that the hazy IPA craze is going to continue this coming up year, and we're going to see a lot of those. We'll probably see our first pot-based beer. I don't think it'll be any good, but I think we'll see a fair amount of that.
What do you think, Dave? Do you actually care about awesome beer that are coming out?
You know what? I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants on that one. So when I'm in, I do enjoy looking over the shelves and seeing what's there. But what I find is I'm a total aesthetics whore.
So it's all about the label for you.
Yeah,
and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Because
you know what? I mean, that's fair.
That's totally drawn to, what I consider the cool labels. Because I'm sure, unfortunately, and maybe this would be an interesting experiment at some point with my pick, is intentionally go after one of the companies that produces labels that are pretty, how should I put this in PC terms? Plain, simple. Yes. I can think of one off the top of my head. I will allow them to remain nameless at this point. But that could be an interesting experiment because, hey, you can't judge a beer by its label, can you? Really?
No, unfortunately, that is true, because one of the things that, speaking of the articles that I've been putting in the chat, which I'm sure you guys have been looking at, one of the things that that was commented about in one of the articles talks about, it touches on anyway, about how the beer market is so incredibly, it's over the last like 5 years especially has really picked up in its sort of momentum of breweries coming online, trying to really make a name for themselves, putting out, basically anything new, but not establishing like longevity. Like, they're not establishing beers that they will, hopefully brew, they think, for, 20 odd years. So, which is leaving, the Coors Lights and the Canadians and those kinds of things, the only beers that really have been around for such a long time that they're recognizable. Mm-hmm. And also that a lot of these beers are fairly experimental in the craft market, because they're basically going and trying to, as I said, create a name for themselves, but also try to establish what they're going to brew, hopefully long term. But there seems to be a trend where none of these breweries are trying to do anything long term. They're actually trying to make beer that is decent, is drinkable, but is only going to be around for a short period of time, or they're going to make beer that just the experiment fails. Like it tastes okay, it's kind of unique, kind of like that beer that we had during the Advent calendar with that with the really hot, spicy chilies in it. Where that beer would be great once in a while, like I'm talking about once a year, but that wouldn't be something you'd want to drink often because it basically tried to kill me and Alan when we were trying to, like, I mean, I don't know if you've watched the episode, Dave, but there was definitely some times we're drinking this beer going, okay, hang on, just hang on.
Wow. I will have to check it out though. So it was seriously spicy.
Yeah, well, it had like you know that sort of cream you can get massaged into your muscles, and it's a capsaicin or whatever it's called.
Capsaicin.
Like
that one,
A535.
Wow.
Yeah, like that kind of stuff in a beer, because
when I think of drinking beer, that is exactly what I think of. A535. I want to drink me a tube of this shit.
I know, let's down that immediately.
Yeah.
But I guess I don't know. Do you guys? I mean, the article talks about it, but basically, from our experience, we've been doing this since 2015. Has it really been that long? Holy shit. We've been doing.
I remember when Old Man Peabody owned all of this.
I had this crazy idea about brewing pine trees. which was one of the beers from the Advent calendar, the pine thing, whatever the hell it was, which was like drinking a Christmas tree. Not a fan of that. Once in a while, again, not a bad thing to have to experiment, kind of cleanse the palate with acid. But anyway, yeah, I mean, have you noticed this? I mean, I think I've kind of noticed it, but this article kind of made me think about, I can think of a few breweries that have made beer that I can actually go to their establishment or go to the store and go, I totally want to have that again today. Or do I just have to walk in for the next 25 years going, I'll try that label and maybe walk away with one or two that I'm like, that's not bad. Or screw this, I'm sticking to home brewing. I'm drinking nothing else. Like I can't handle these craft breweries trying to kill me every time I go to the store.
Yeah. I don't know. It seems to me that the crafties are trying to do a bit of a balance. And maybe that's just the bigger guys that can manage to do that instead of the littler guys that are really coming online and trying to build something that's fresh and new.
Yeah.
But as you were talking, Shane, about the different the beers that just kind of come and go, right? They do the one shots and you kind of hope you'll see it again and doesn't necessarily happen. But I guess I'm thinking of somebody like Phillips.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would consider them I don't know, mid-sized brewery. Like they are obviously a well-established, almost not a craft brewery. I don't know what you'd say, Alan, but that's
I would still refer to them as a craft brewery, but they are definitely getting big as far as craft brewing goes. Same with Parallel 49.
Yeah. And those guys, they've got some that you can pop down and grab it, like the Longboat. That one seems to be a perennial for them.
Yeah.
And yet they still are constantly coming out with fresh stuff. They're always trying different stuff. But you can, if you want, you just, you want to get something is going to go down nice. It's there.
Yeah.
I could see that. Like, why would you not want to do that, right? You want something that's going to draw people in and it's going to be something, you can kind of not stake your business on, but something that's going to make you a bit more stable and allows you to play around a bit. And that will keep people coming back to try your other stuff because, hey, you've got some good stuff that's all regular.
Or conversely, on the other side,
We've got, say, Steam Whistle in Toronto that produces one beer only. They do it very well, and it appeals to a mass audience. And they're huge as well, but they're still considered to be a craft brewery. They're not owned by some big parent corporation or anything. It's the same original owners, and they vow that they're gonna keep it as a craft brewery until they die. And they're only going to make their Pilsner, and that's it. They're not going to make anything else, and it's very successful for them.
Wow.
Well, I certainly hope that we will be able to see, I guess, a continuation of our beer brewing brethren in the craft industry, because right now they're getting hammered by this whole government shutdown thing in the United States, because there's two things that in order to make beer, you have to go to the Alcohol and Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau in order to get the stamp of approval on beer. Specifically, labels need to be reviewed and authorized, all this kind of stuff. And they can't do that. So for the last 3 weeks, which I didn't really think was a huge amount of time for brewing, but a lot of breweries that have seasonal beer that they've made that they can't actually bottle and sell are suffering, because they're now having to consider dumping large batches of beer because it'll be sitting too long and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that blows.
If I was one of those guys, I would just be ready to kneecap somebody. Holy.
Well, hey, I don't want to say the T word, but yeah, that's really his fault.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can't really. I mean, I my heart goes out to them, but I guess really in Canada, we just have to drink more Canadian beer. There are plenty of breweries around here, so I don't think we'll suffer too much. But maybe down south, there'll be some businesses being hurt because they can't actually sell the product that they have spent time developing and making. So,
which will lead to product price increases on U.S. product imported later.
Exactly, because that's the other thing, is that the long-term effect, the short-term effect is that they might have to ditch some beer, but the long-term effect is they might actually have to, when they make beer, it'll have to be more expensive because they lost revenue during this point. So now, speaking of traveling abroad, going to the States to worry about beer being thrown out, where I would probably lay down at the bottom of their vat going, just pour it right in. The other article, the last article that I shared with you guys, is about places that you apparently should go this year to experience a unique beer selection. Number one on their list is Austin, Texas, which I would never have guessed.
Really?
Being a beer capital for people to actually go. I don't know. Have you guys, now, this list aside, what is sort of your gut reactions on going to find beer in other countries? Where, I mean, we know that Dave went to another country a couple of years ago and really didn't drink any beer. So
no, nothing.
Well, for me, I mean, not necessarily not a country per se, but I would go to Oregon and check out some of the breweries there. And on my way, I would go through Washington State and stop in at Pike and Pyramid and places like that. Lots of breweries in the Pacific Northwest of the United States that is awesome for tourism. Then after that, I'd go to Germany.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
Why Germany? Sorry, out of curiosity.
Because Germany is known for making good beer.
Oh, okay, cool. I just wanted a little clarification there. I was worried.
I would imagine you could get good beer in Germany, and I'm not talking about like Tuborg and stuff like that you can get here. I'm talking about small
craft stuff that is hopefully available there.
We are Tuborg. You will drink our beer. Drinking our beer, or not drinking our beer is futile. Sorry.
Are you suggesting it's like a cross between the Borg and Colonel Clink?
All right, Hogan, you will drink our beer. Is that a thing Clink used to do? He would like, threaten people, and then his eye monocle would. Ow! I just poked myself in the eye. would like fall out, or he'd drop it, or was that
sometimes?
Yeah, I seem to recall that was sort of his thing when he got angry. Oh God! And then it would fall out. But there you go. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So anyway, moving right along. Now that we've made a reference to a TV show that's been off the air for a very long time, and most of people that will watch this have probably never heard of it nor seen it.
They're probably thinking.
I do recommend watching the biopic about the guy who played Hogan, whose name escapes me at the moment. But because that way you'll learn a very intimate version of what was going on behind the scenes when that show was sort of the bomb, as it were. I don't know how to recover from that. Dave, take over.
I'm looking up the name.
What? Looking up the name of the actor?
Yeah, I should know this.
I doubt it's
Bob Crane.
Bob Crane, right? Yeah, if you've ever seen the film, spoilers. He really liked group sex. He enjoyed going to swinger clubs and that whole sort of thing.
What?
It was his thing, right?
Bob Crane?
Bob Crane. Yeah, he was basically he enjoyed going to like sex clubs and stuff like that. But the whole thing, again, spoilers, he was then murdered. The actor actually was killed. They think, and I believe even up to this day, it's been unsolved, because I think the rumor, at least the implication of the film, is that he slept with somebody at a sex club who was married to somebody else, and that other person took offense to it and then beat him to death. So there you go. It's a sad story, especially when you look at the show and you're like, it's such a happy guy, and then he gets clobbered or whatever happened to him. Yeah. Here's to Bob Crane. I raised this beer to Bob Crane. Thank you for making my childhood tolerable.
I know nothing.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. I did enjoy it,
even though it was like completely tasteless.
Oh well, even every television program made from like television.
Completely.
Even for then, it was tasteless.
Really?
There was actors that they wanted to be in it that refused because of the whole premise behind it.
It would be a touchy subject. Definitely.
Now, and I'll say this. Okay, so for those that don't know, Hogan's Heroes took place in a Nazi prisoner of war camp. And what they did is all the German Nazi soldiers in it, purposely, they cast with Jewish actors.
Mm-hmm. So
Clink, Schultz, Burkhalter, Major Hochstetter were all Jews. And actually, Louis Lebeau, the Frenchman in it, the actor who portrayed him, Robert Clary, was actually a survivor of the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say that, because I was thinking about Auschwitz the other day, not because it's a cheery subject, but I gather there's this whole not a whole, but there's been a few photographs of people taking selfies at the gates of Auschwitz, and they're taking selfies using Snapchat, and basically taking a selfie apparently is not a bad thing. But they're using these filters, and some of them are using like angel wings and halos and just kind of borderline tasteless, borderline, granted, a lot of these photographs being taken are by very young people who
don't get it,
don't quite understand. I mean, we're actually in that generation right now where our boomer parents are children of people that actually were alive during that period, and now these younger kids are a good 5 generations back, or at least 3, who they're disjointed. They don't quite understand what the point of November 11th is. They don't quite understand the importance of history, essentially, because they haven't quite aged enough to kind of I don't know. I found that I hit like 30, 35 where my brain
there's a certain realism that is missing when something has happened so long ago for you.
Yeah,
that it doesn't seem real. It's almost like it happened in books only, so it's fiction. Kind of like like say with us, what's like say the Civil War in the United States.
Yeah.
Brutal war, but it has no reality. There's no reality there for us.
yeah.
There's no context. We have context.
I would say though, part of that is we aren't American, and it doesn't definitely impact us necessarily. Like, okay, we could say, you could argue that we could well have connections to American families, because hey, that's a reality. There's lots of Canadians and Americans that are related to one another. But I know for myself, my family I'm first generation, so I don't have any connection at all to the Civil War in the States, right? There's no family members of mine that live down there or anything. So I would say that the connection for me is almost nothing. And I think that's part of it too, wouldn't you say? Like, it's no family.
Oh, sure. That's part of it. I mean, maybe the American Civil War was a bad example, but
no, I think it's a good example.
It's not a bad example. It's actually a good example, because we're Canadians. We grew up way after that particular event happened. And we still can appreciate the horror of actually what happened. Like, I remember back in like grade 8-ish, somewhere in there, we were in a social studies or history class or something, and we had to write letters as if we had actually fought in the trenches of World War I. And we had to write letters home. And at the time, I'm a kid, didn't quite feel the impact. Again, I was 13, 14 years old, somewhere in there. And however, as an adult, I mean, on my bookshelf, I have got like 3 or 4 books of war letters that have been collected together, ranging from the Boer War, all the way through Iraq and the Gulf War conflicts as well, both of them. So, it's interesting to see these letters written from, South Africa by British soldiers, sending them home and that kind of stuff, to emails being sent from soldiers on the front of those conflicts. So I have a real appreciation for these kinds of things. And although I don't know if I would ever take a selfie if I was visiting Auschwitz.
I wouldn't take any photographs at Auschwitz.
Yeah,
I think
exactly,
it's rude.
And also, I mean, there are actually like the film Saving Private Ryan. I've watched that a number of times, but as time has gone on, I've actually found myself not being able to watch it, because it has left an impact, and there's scenes in it that just really get to you, and it's kind of like, okay, I'm gonna turn it off now, because I've had enough. I've seen it before. I know what's going on. I know what's going to happen. But then there's times where it's like, I kind of feel like it's important. I should see this again for some reason. It's very strange. but it's a rough. It's a rough.
You know what's a really good sort of. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but anyway, it's a Twilight Zone episode from about 1960, and I can't remember who was in it, but anyway, it was about a Nazi officer who goes back to not necessarily Auschwitz, but to a concentration camp that's of course abandoned and everything. He's looking around, and all the voices haunt him of all the people that were there. And there's a line where he says, well, 15 years have passed. Can't we just let bygones be bygones? It's like, and it was just sort of like that whole 15 years thing kind of stuck into my head here. It's like, at that point, only 15 years had passed. And that was only a few years before I was born. So I mean, yeah, we're pretty close to that time, and the kids of today aren't.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually people do recognize. People will mature enough to appreciate what actually occurred in the past. I mean, for example. I have no connection and no feeling about when England was invaded by the Romans, which would happen several times. But yesterday or the day of, sometime over the month of December, there was
too soon, man.
Too soon.
I'm still reeling from those attacks from the Romans.
I know. But they actually found a burial site of about 50 people. They're assuming at this stage are Roman soldiers, but they've all been beheaded, and their heads have been placed in between the legs of the bodies, and then buried. So this happened, 1500, 1800 years ago or something, but it still actually kind of gives you pause to kind of go, that was some dude from Italy or from somewhere who became a Roman soldier, went to England. And didn't know when to duck, and he was killed and beheaded and then buried, with his head, between his feet or whatever it was, by whomever killed them, or maybe his fellow soldiers buried him. I'm not entirely sure, but essentially, yeah. I mean, it happened a long time ago, but you still kind of feel that that would have been horrible, and what actually happened, who knows. But it still does give you pause and gives you a bit of you feel some impact about that sort of situation. So
yeah.
Anyway, by the way, the episode you were talking about for the Twilight Zone was episode 74, called Death's Head Revisited. So there you go. So which, by the way, there's another episode earlier on in the series where Dennis Hopper stars as a leader of a small and struggling Nazi group. So I kind of want to see that, because a long time ago,
that one.
Have you seen? I probably have. This is the thing, is that a number of years ago I actually rented a whole bunch of the Twilight Zone things, and then I actually felt that I should actually go out and get the entire series, because it would be nice to have that you can go back to every so often. So, oh my lord,
did you do beer?
That? I haven't. That's the thing. I would love to watch the entire series again, because even back then, with the 1950s or 60s way of making TV, it's very different from now, but they were still able to actually tell stories that are really impactful. So
very much so.
So so the next time you're flying on a plane, look out the window, because you'll never know what you might see.
Be William Shatner there.
So okay, here's a question for you guys.
I'm William Shatner, and I'm eating into this wing. Sorry, what were you saying, Dave?
I was saying, question for you guys, being the TV and movie guys you are, the Black Mirror. Have you watched it? And if you have, how does that compare to the old Twilight Zone?
Black Mirror in general? You mean?
Hey?
Black Mirror in general?
Yeah. Because I've stayed away from Black Mirror because it looks
you haven't
crazy for me.
Well, first of all, for those who want to know what the Black Mirror is, here it is. This is the Black Mirror. It is a scarily. Some of the episodes are interesting and really great, very Twilight Zone-ish, but there are some that just gut punch you because I think that, for example, just because I'm a nerd and I know a lot about technology and these kinds of things, there are episodes that illustrate what could happen if technology gets away from us. There's an episode that has bees. Like bees have died off, so society says, "Hey, we need bees. They're kind of important. So let's create drone bees that can do the job of what natural bees used to." But what happens if somebody hacks them? You know, that kind of thing. Stuff like that. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Their latest episode was just one that came out over the holidays that I watched on New Year's Eve, called Bandersnatch. Yeah, something like that. And
that's the interactive one.
It's a choose your own adventure. So it actually has 7 different endings or something.
Oh,
and it's quite interesting because you're watching it on Netflix, and then when the characters have a decision to make, these selections at the bottom of the screen show up, and you have to choose which direction they go in.
Really?
So it's very cool. It was a great idea, and I think the execution, people have poo-pooed some of the stuff about, well, how can you make this better? And I'm like, well, it's television, dudes. You have to kind of, there are limitations to it. So, but overall, apparently you can watch it each time and get a different response if you choose different things. So I actually applaud them for doing it because it was a very brave, kind of interesting thing to do that you couldn't do on regular TV. This is something that would only be available on streaming services. So but overall, if you have not watched Black Mirror, I highly recommend it. Probably the most terrifying episode is about what happens if the Uber thing. Where, have you guys ever taken an Uber?
No.
Nope.
There's no Uber here in Victoria.
Well, there's here either in Vancouver, but I've been to the States for the last couple of years, a couple of times. But essentially, Uber is like a taxi, but the whole idea behind it is that you rate the driver on a scale of 1 to 5, I think. And the driver rates the passenger on a scale of 1 to 5. And it's interesting that you are able to get, by default, most people seem to be like, I will give that person a 5. They were very pleasant. They either talked to me when I wanted, or they didn't talk to me, or whatever the experience was. So you give them a rating that's higher, and they're able to get more business out of it, and you're able to be picked up without people kind of wondering about you or whatever. The drivers themselves, I mean. But what if that expands beyond that? What if banks, for example, go, hey, I totally want to give you a mortgage, but you only got a 4.3. I kind of need you to be a 4.6 or above, that kind of thing. Because this whole rating system is completely arbitrary based on individuals. And I have to say, I'm not a huge believer in rating systems outside of, say, movies or television, because, a lot of that stuff's pretty, I can make my own decisions. So even if something's rating is really low, I can still watch it and not go, oh my God, I can't believe I wasted my time. But, being able to rate somebody based on whether or not they were a good passenger versus a good driver, I don't know. I think that to me is kind of the extent of where I think all of the rating stuff should go. It should not go beyond that, because human beings have bad days. Human beings can be dicks, but the next day they can have the best day in the world and be the best person on the planet. So, it's kind of one of those things, right? So,
yeah.
But anyway, guys, we've actually been talking for quite some time, or yes, I have anyway. So yeah, so we'll leave it there, boys and girls. We certainly hope that you have been able to make an educated decision about the Steamworks Salted Chocolate Porter.
Thumbs up from me.
I give it a thumbs up. Dave?
I'm going to give it a half.
Oh, Dave gives it a half thumbs up. That's it. Speaking of ratings, what a dick.
I'm going to say it's a sipper. It's a sipper.
It's a sipper. Well, okay, that's fair. I can see that. I mean, one thing I would like to try this beer doing is if it was completely, like if it was, absolute zero kind of cold, right? Where it's, maybe not quite absolute zero. Let me correct that. When ice starts to form in alcohol, just before that happens, like when it's really the coldest you can get, and try it that. So I think that would change the flavor just a little bit. That would be fine, kind of interesting. So other than that, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to follow us on all of the social media stuff, which are all linked down below here, as well as spread the word. Let people know that we exist. We depend entirely upon you because our ad budget is 0, and
we need sponsors.
And we're looking for sponsors that will pay us at least $1 million per episode. So. Because our content is that good. So make sure that you are going to be following us and 1,000 points of light. And we'll see you all guys next week for whatever we pull out of our butts.